Good afternoon, everyone. I only have 4 minutes, and Paul Craven was supposed to be speaking with me, but he claims to be ill. Now, the way that Paul and I had agreed we would do this is that I would give you some general background, and then Paul would give you a case study. Since he's ill, you'll get some general background and no case study, but you're all going to have to deal with that because we don't really have too many other options. I'm delighted to be here. It's really exciting because things are changing, but in some ways maybe not as much as you think, and in other ways maybe absolutely and completely. So rather than going into GDPR in too much detail in the small amount of time that we have, what I thought I'd talk to you about, I guess, is some of the macro trends that might be kind of impacting the world of work. And then the one line that Paul said I couldn't steal from him was that we need revolution in terms of HR technology rather than evolution. So what's gone before, iterative improvements on that, aren't acceptable. So if you do see Paul at a later date, don't tell him I took that. So we're looking at a world where technology allows us to do a host of things that weren't possible before, whether that's the aggregation of data, whether that's the parsing of data and the making sense of it, or whether in fact it's interacting with things in a different way so that you have a multiplication effect between person and machine. It's an incredibly exciting time to be alive. Information is more readily available, but also has, interestingly, more value than at ever point in the whole of humankind. But the challenge that we face is what to do with that and how. And you will hear various things about macro environments that may or may not be true, but there are probably some things that are true in terms of sense of direction. So I don't know if millennials have been mentioned today. At any point, but you'll see that kind of concept popping up all over the internet of millennials being almost an entirely new species. I'm going to put it to you that that's not the case, but what we need from our technology is a greater degree of accessibility, a greater degree of humanity, and starting with the customer at the very heart of that. So if you look at how Google designed their products, their stated aim with any of their enterprise products is that you should be able to work the way that you live. And that's what we should be attempting to do with all HR technology. You should be able to pick it up, you should be able to integrate it with it, and you shouldn't need training how to use it. It shouldn't be clunky, it should integrate effectively with everything else that you had. And what's interesting is that the regulatory landscape is doing two things. It's making us far more conscious, actually, of the ownership of that data. But secondly, it's also talking about the ability to port and move that data effectively from place to place. So what we need is the next revolution of HR technology in every sphere that is joined up, integrated, and effective. Not because that's what young people coming into the workforce for the first time can expect or would want or will feel natural to them, but actually because that's a reasonable expectation of any employee as soon as you start thinking about the experience. There is no reason the experiences you have inside of work should be subpar compared to the ones that you have outside of work. That's why Facebook at Work is so successful and is taking off, because actually it's a platform that has been designed with the user in mind. And what we need to do is find different ways of skipping our technology forward, not in an iterative way, but in a way that really starts with what are we trying to solve here and how can we do it. So were Paul here, he will be telling you at this point in a rousing way to start some kind of technology revolution. But in the absence of that, what the people in this room need to do is keep demanding from the suppliers and the organizations that you work for, things that work for your employees. Not things that work for the industry or the organization, but things that work for the employees first and foremost. So I'm delighted to have shared 4 minutes with you today. I'm sorry that Paul can't be here, but actually take that phrase from Google, live the way that you work and work the way that you live, and think about what that means in terms of technology and its accessibility, its usability, and its friendliness. Thank you very much.